Hello, Western Heights Church family. This is your Wednesday Minister Moment. Have you ever had stage fright? You know, where you were standing in front of a group of people, you knew what you were supposed to say, you knew what you were supposed to do, but when you see all of those faces looking at you, you feel all this pressure and fear, and you can't think of what's supposed to be next. And so you just freeze. It's kind of like that phrase, a deer caught in the headlights. I was taking a group of teens to Colorado one year, and we were driving around this mountain, this curve on this mountain at night, and right in front of us was a deer, right in the middle of the road. And it just stood there. I slammed on the brakes on the bus. Fortunately, we didn't hit the deer, but the deer just stood there, focused on the headlights, seeing the danger coming toward it, and it couldn't move. We were fortunate that we didn't hit the deer because the deer was able to run off and we weren't hurt as a result of a wreck. But when we have things in life, dangers that seem to approach us, or things that we perceive as dangerous, or things that we don't want, sometimes we can freeze and get focused on the wrong thing and not be able to do what we really need to do. It reminds me of a story in Matthew chapter 14. In Matthew 14, Jesus and his disciples have just been with all these people, and what Jesus wants to do is to get by himself and pray for a little bit. So he sends his disciples off in a boat across the lake. And as Jesus stays behind to pray, when Jesus finishes, he begins to walk across the lake because he doesn't have a boat to get in. Now, the disciples are in the middle of the lake, and they're struggling because the winds have picked up and the waves have gotten a little bit bigger. And so they're trying to fight against all the wind and the waves. And as they're doing that, Jesus gets closer as he's walking, and he gets close enough to them to where they can see him. But they don't know who he is. They think he's a ghost, and so they're afraid because of that. But Jesus cries out to them, and he says, "It's I. It's me." Peter seems to recognize his voice. And so he says, "Lord, if it's really you, then you tell me to come out to you." And Jesus says, "Okay, come on." And Peter has enough faith to step out of the boat into the water, and he begins to walk on the water toward Jesus. Now, he only goes a few steps when suddenly he realizes that I'm in the middle of the lake. I'm walking on water, and there's all the wind and the waves, and he starts to focus on the wind and the waves. And as he does that, his focus is taken off of Jesus. He focuses on his fear and what he can't do, and then he begins to sink. And as he is sinking, getting ready to go into the water, he cries out to Jesus, and Jesus comes over to him and reaches down and picks him up and pulls him into the boat. Now, Jesus' response to Peter is, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" You know, I look at that and I think, well, Peter had a lot of faith just to get out of the boat. But then when he began to focus on the danger, when he began to focus on the winds and the waves, it diminished his faith. He was focusing on what he couldn't do rather than what he could do through Jesus. We may have times like that in our lives, where it seems like whatever is going on in our life, that it just seems to be too much for us. Or we believe in Jesus, we trust in Jesus, and yet something comes along, the winds and the waves come along in our own life, and it takes our focus off of him, and we focus on the anxiety, the frustration, the anger, the doubts, the fear. And then our faith is diminished because of that. It makes me think of what is one of the things that's said in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. The writer there tells us to fix our eyes on Jesus. He's the author and perfecter of our faith. And we should fix our eyes on Jesus so we don't grow weary and lose heart. Peter lost heart when he focused on the winds and the waves. And often we lose heart too when we focus on the negative things that are happening in life. But we've got to remember that just as Peter was able to walk on the water as he walked towards Jesus, we too need to continue to walk. We need to continue to fix our eyes on Jesus and continue to walk even when the winds are picking up, even when the waves are getting bigger. Fix our eyes on Jesus, because He's the one who can help us through those times. And when we fail, which we often do, Jesus will be there to pick us up just like He picked up Peter. Like He rescued Peter, He can rescue us. And that's my encouragement to you. Continue walking. Continue looking to Jesus no matter what this world throws at you. No matter what negative things may happen in your life, continue to walk in the midst of the waves and the wind and keep your eyes fixed on Jesus so you don't grow weary and lose heart. And if you struggle and if you doubt and if you fail, know that Jesus is there and He can pick you up and rescue you. And this is what we need to share with other people too. I hope this is an encouragement to you, and I hope you have a great week.